I'm Popeye the Sailor Man. I'm Popeye the Sailor Man. I'm strong to the finish, 'cause I eats me spinach. Popeye the Sailor Man. Hello, Shat crew. Scott H. from Friendswood, Texas. I'm excited for y'all to do this commission of Popeye from 1980. Actually saw this in the movie theater with my dad. And last week, my wife and I decided to rewatch it. And we really enjoyed it. It was cheesy, but it was great performances by Robin Williams as Popeye and Shelley Duvall as Olive Oil. I thought they did a really great job. And we really enjoyed it. My wife gave it 2 wipes, and I'm going in with about 2 1/4. So y'all enjoy it. I'd like to hear your thoughts on it. Gene, it was nice to see you and Sarah in Scottsdale or Cave Canyon or where we were at. But I had a good time with y'all. I'm excited for the baseball season this year. Hopefully I'll do a lot better. Anyway, y'all take care. Have a great day.
Remember when we first met John McClane? Argyle picked him up from the plane and took him down the Nakatomi Tower at the Christmas party. And the terrorists were overzealous, but it was sweet when they killed Ellis. And with a little help from Alan, John McClane kicked ass.
Welcome back to Chat the Movies, the podcast where we answer the question, are the movies we loved when we were growing up really that good? Have you ever caught yourself thinking, why don't they make movies like they used to? Can you still remember spending your Friday night searching for the perfect movie rental at Blockbuster Video? Do you know what Blockbuster Video is? If you answered yes, then this is the podcast for you. I am one of your hosts, Gene Lyons, and alongside me is my co-host, the King Bee.
Ugh, what a disgustapating development.
And each week, we take a look back in time to decide if our favorite films still hold up. The movies we cover are chosen by you, the listeners, who generously commission the films you love. If you like solid movies we have covered, will cover, want to choose one for yourself, please visit shatpod.com and have a look. At the end of each podcast, we'll provide you, the audience, with the number of wipes each movie takes to get off your respective butts. So thank you so much for listening. If you have not already, hit that subscribe button and share with a friend. It's how we help the podcast grow. Additionally, subscribe to our sister podcast, Shat on TV, where we review TV series such as Westworld, the King Bee's favorite, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, True Detective, Lovecraft Country, and Watchmen. Find all information and past episodes at shatpod.com/TV. And finally, if you would like to hang out with us live, follow and subscribe to our Twitch channel, shatpod.com/Twitch, and our YouTube channel, where we play video games, host watch parties, and edit this podcast live. Now, this episode is special, dear listeners, because Scott in Friendswood, Texas, made a specific request. He is a longtime listener. He has commissioned several films. He is my favorite tailgater, and he came out here to celebrate Mardi Gras with me here in Arizona. We had the world's worst gumbo, and during that dinner, he said he had one request for this episode, and that was to have the King Bee reviewing one of his favorite films, Popeye.
I didn't know he requested me specifically.
He asked for you by name, knowing that you're a Popeye fan.
Well, I hope I don't let you down, buddy.
Well, Popeye is a 1980 musical comedy directed by Robert Altman and produced by Paramount Pictures and Walt Disney Productions. Based on E.C. Seeger's Popeye comics character, the film stars Robin Williams as Popeye the Sailor Man and Shelley Duvall as Olive Oil. It follows Popeye's adventures as he searches for his father in the town of Sweethaven. Popeye grossed $6.3 million in its opening weekend and $49.8 million worldwide against a budget of a whopping $20 million. Critics' reviews were negative when it was first released, but Popeye has received improved reviews over time. Now, one of the reasons that Scott asked for you by name, King Bee, is that he knew that you were my gateway into the movie Popeye. So I think it's only fitting that you go first and tell me, what are your memories of this movie?
Great. Yeah. So I have some broken and very sketchy memories of seeing it on TV several times when I was a kid. I clocked when I was a child that television, network television, was on a yearly schedule. And there were movies like The Breakfast Club. They would be played on network TV on like Friday night movie nights or whatever. They were always coming back, and it was on like a seasonal or a yearly schedule. And Popeye was just one of those movies that popped up on TV. Now, I never really watched it closely, but I always had very visceral memories of those octopus tentacles, snaking around olive oil through the weird little exhaust tube thing. And it always made me, for reasons I'll never be able to pin down, totally uncomfortable. But I remembered it viscerally. Now, as an adult, I wanted to spend more time outdoors. And in the place where I live, I've got a little tiny backyard that has a mammoth mesquite tree. And for those of you that don't know about mesquite trees out here in the Southwest, mesquite trees are these giant trees, or they can be giant trees. They're like overgrown, thorny bonsai trees. And the trunks, they don't grow straight up in the air. They kind of grow sideways and long ways or whatever. I had this mesquite tree that grew right through the center of my backyard, and it was shady to a point, so I put a hammock underneath it. And I went to the pawn shop, and I got a little DVD player TV combo, and I stuck some eye bolts in the plastic frame, and I roped it up, and I tied it up in the tree. So this TV with a little tarp over it hung from rope in the mesquite tree, and I would hang out in this hammock underneath, and I would watch movies. And that was kind of like my second date material. I'd throw a DVD. I go, hey, why don't you come over? We'll have some beers. We'll lay in the hammock and watch a movie. And Popeye the movie got thrown into the rotation right around the time we had a rainstorm, and the DVD player wouldn't eject anymore. So Popeye became the de facto mesquite tree hammock movie. So throughout my mid to late 20s, date number 2, hey, you want to watch Popeye the movie and lay in a hammock? And nobody had ever heard of it. And so that's how we did it.
I never got the hammock treatment, unfortunately, but my entry point to Popeye was you, King B. The only time I've seen this movie was at your house. It was typically after heavy drinking at KC Moore's. And for those of you who've never been to Tempe, Arizona, and never been to the King B's neighborhood, every town has that last-ditch bar. Like, you struck out everywhere else, or you want to be at that bar where everybody's having their last drink for the night. And in our prime, like in the early 2000s, that was KC Moore's. And I lived on campus at Arizona State, so it was just a few blocks east. But the King B had his own place, not in the dorms, with no rules, right? We were adults there. So we always ended up stumbling back to his place. And when I came back to Arizona after a decade away, so in 2013 when I returned, we started that old practice right back up. I was living just down the street. We would end our nights at his place. And one time, he even brought back a lady. I witnessed this whole Popeye ritual in practice, and I didn't mind third wheeling. Got to get drunk, got to watch Popeye. I was a happy camper.
Yeah, if you're the 16th hottest chick at KC Moore's at 2:30 in the morning, there's a good chance you're going to get the best grilled cheese sandwich you ever had in your fucking life.
Do you remember when you used to do chicken walla?
Yeah, chicken walla was where it's at.
Is that still a thing?
I mean, the component still exists, but I don't do it.
We watched the entire Asian World Cup, or the World Cup that was in Asia. I think it was in Korea and Japan, while eating copious amounts of chicken walla.
Yeah, we'd come home from the bar. I'd immediately change into the rattiest pair of basketball shorts you ever saw. I'd break out a frozen bag of chicken meal, heat it up on a skillet, and throw it on a tortilla, and we'd get down to business.
Chicken walla.
Chicken walla.
And with that, we bring you Robert Altman's Popeye.
Jesus Christ, we're old.
What am I? I'm Popeye, the sailor. And I am what I am, what I am, and I am what I am, and that's all that I am, 'cause I am what I am. You got it? I think so, yeah. And I've got a lot of muscle, and I only got one eye, and I never hurt nobody, and I never tell a lie. Top to me bottoms, from the bottoms to me top. That's the way it is, till the day that I drop. What am I? What am I? I am what I am! I'm Popeye, the sailor. I'm Popeye, the sailor. I must trust only, baby. You're a baby. It says here, right there, right.
Robin Williams. Shelley Duvall. In Popeye.
I said fooey, and I mean fooey. Fooey.
Popeye, a gruff but good-hearted sailor, arrives at the small coastal town of Sweethaven while searching for his missing father. He rents a room at the Oil family's boarding house, where the Oils plan to have their daughter, Olive, become engaged to Captain Bluto, a powerful, perpetually angry bully who manages the town in the name of the mysterious Commodore.
So this movie opens to Popeye rowing into the bay, and we're greeted with this, I'm going to call it the national anthem of Sweethaven. If you're paying attention to the lyrics, you're being served a hyper-relevant ballad of an undereducated, God-fearing, oppressed, hopeless people. They're fearful of outsiders in the way that they treat Popeye immediately. They're fixated on their own individual wants and desires. Everyone's in it for themselves. There is no sense of community in this place. Find the parallels where you will. The lyrics. Sweet, sweet haven, God must love us. We the people love Sweethaven. Hooray, hooray, Sweethaven, flags are waving. Swept people from the sea, safe from democracy. Sweeter than a melon tree, put here for you and me. Sweethaven, God must have landed here. Why else would he strand us here? Jesus Christ. Where the air is nice and clear, Sweethaven, sounds so near to heaven, Sweethaven.
And it doesn't just stop with that song. They build out a physical representation of those lyrics. And this movie only has 2 sets total, right? You have the self-contained set of Sweethaven, and then for a brief moment, we have that rocky outcrop called Scab Island. The latter is just whatever. It's rocks, right? But Sweethaven, this set is a work of art. It has an anthem, as you mentioned, King B. It has an aesthetic. It has real buildings. They built this thing out. And it feels very much like a movie set made for people who live in a movie set, if that makes sense. That is their reality.
So if you do a little bit of research, they did all the shooting in Malta, and they built Sweethaven, and they built support buildings that you don't see for all the staff and crew to live in. And Robin Williams affectionately referred to it as Stalag Altman. And when they left, abruptly, everyone in Malta just moved in and occupied this space. It looks like a place built by refugees, displaced seafaring people. And I mean, it's functional. There are small businesses, there are residences, they are ramshackle, they are cobbled together from the remnants of ships. It looks like a very real and very lived in place. It is a very real and lived in place. We can visit it today. Go ahead and throw your donations. Gene will add the link. Send us to Popeye Village.
In Malta.
I'd love to go to Malta. So, but the goal of Stalag Altman here was to capture the illustrated comic book, the cartoon, in live action. And I think they did it masterfully. You've never seen it done better. The costumes are fantastic and bizarre from top to bottom. Everyone's got those big-toed Depression-era shoes. The dock workers wear these giant layered sweaters that are absolutely beautiful and perfectly tattered. Every cast member only has one outfit related to their job. That's what they wear throughout the entire film, no matter where they're at. The greasy chef is walking around town in his big hat and his apron. The banjo-playing hillbilly that looks totally out of place doesn't matter. He is the banjo-playing hillbilly. There's a nameless hobo that just lurks in the windows that just from the scraggly hair to the wiry beard and mustache, it visually is just a perfect cartoon character given human form.
When we get live action adaptations of comics today, whether it's a superhero comic or a cartoon that we've seen, the tendency is to make it gritty. That's flavor 1. Or you get the option of flavor 2, which is we're going to use computers to make it super glitzy, a la Marvel, right? But the 80s were different. Much like Christopher Reeve's Superman, Popeye was born in this beautiful era of the 80s where quality costuming and practical effects provided the visuals. They didn't need anything more than that. The emphasis there wasn't grit, it was wonder. Wonder at this thing that you're looking at. And this may be a stretch, but I think it's representative of how we were more complete as humans then. It wasn't a thing to be embarrassed about. It wasn't a thing that made you naive to wonder at something on a screen rather than need it to be real and grounded. You know, every character we get now has to have some massive flaw, right? Because that's just how they're built. And we want everything to be grounded in the world that we live in rather than escaping to this other place like Sweethaven.
Additionally, I think we've gotten to a place, and there's a local comic book guy named Tom Kalb, who's a comic book dealer, who's a disgruntled old guy. But he said something really beautiful years ago when the first King Kong movie came out. There's a scene in the King Kong movie where he's falling down a canyon while he's fighting 2 Tyrannosauruses. And it's like a 10-minute scene where he's just falling and battling in the air with 2 giant dinosaurs. And Tom Kalb says, you know, we've gotten to a place where they don't use stop motion animation. They can just do everything on a computer. And nothing has to be based in reality anymore. And it all looks like bullshit. What canyon is that deep that he can fall for that long? How many different obstacles can they bounce off of? I'm bored to tears watching this thing. We've gotten to a place where technology will allow us to do anything we want. And we've gotten away from just doing what we should. Just because we can doesn't mean we should. We need to stay grounded and keep it simple. And he's absolutely right. That's why no one gives a shit about a Jurassic Park movie anymore. Seeing dinosaurs on the screen was the whole draw of the original film. Now you see a dinosaur on the screen, who gives a shit? It doesn't fucking matter. CGI is the fucking death of film.
And Big D and I talked about this, not CGI, but the fact that just putting one obstacle after another does not a great movie make when we were talking about The Abyss, right? You have Ed Harris falling down a 3-mile trench into the darkness, knowing he'll never come back. That's enough. You don't need submersible demolition derby and resuscitating a woman. Like, it's not necessary, right? You don't need a nuclear weapon about to go off. None of that's necessary. The Abyss is enough if we allow it to be enough. And King B, you and I sat there and we watched the credits after this movie ran. That's how interested in it we were. Popeye might be the first movie where I've ever done that because I just wanted to know all the characters' names. Like, I was that interested in the small thing that they were doing. And of course, while we're watching that, we got the oils. We got olive oil, castor oil, Nana, and Cole. But there's also Hoagie and Von Schnitzel and Chisel Flint and Bill Barnacle and Oxblood Oxheart. And of course, the guy you already mentioned, Bear the Hermit. And he might be my favorite Easter egg in this film. This guy gets no lines. He plays no part in the plot. He's never even noticed or mentioned by anyone in the movie, but Bear the Hermit keeps popping up in the background of scenes throughout Popeye. And there's a joy in that. There's a special why not that I equate with back in the 80s when bars used to sponsor softball teams and people slap stickers on dive bar urinals.
I don't think he ever gets a full body shot in that movie. How great would that be? You're an actor. You go and audition. They pick you up. You're going to Malta. You're going to a foreign, remote location. You're going to see the people. You're going to see the sights. You're going to do everything that all the big movie stars do. And you don't even have to fucking talk. What a gig. What a gig. Sign me up.
The night of the engagement party, Olive sneaks out after discovering the only attribute she can report for her bullying fiancé is size. He's large.
Large.
She encounters Popeye, who has failed to fit in with the townsfolk at the party. The two eventually find an abandoned baby in a basket. Popeye and Olive adopt the child, naming him Sweet Pea after the town Sweethaven, and the three return to the Oils' home. Bluto, whom Olive has stood up, finds out about this encounter and beats up Popeye, imposing heavy taxes on the Oils' property and possessions. A greedy taxman follows up on Bluto's demand, but Popeye helps the Oils' financial situation, winning a hefty prize by defeating a boxer named Oxblood Oxheart.
This is a brilliant cartoon premise. First of all, I love how everyone just shits on Popeye the minute he gets into town, and he refuses to be bothered by it. He's so humble, so reserved. He's just trying to get through the day. Yeah. Let's ignore that Olive Oyl couldn't be more transparent about her gold digger motivations and her family's obvious complicity. They are in favor of this engagement because of the benefits it yields them. The rest of the town is taxed into oblivion. They're immune because of Olive's proposed affections. I love seeing this plot device at work. I love that she's running out on her engagement party. She comes back. It can't have been an hour she was gone, followed by Popeye with Sweet Pea in tow. Bluto opens the door, correctly assumes she's run off with another man, consummated, procreated, and cohabitated. It's time to brawl.
You know, King B, lately masculinity has been defined as dominance, aggression, machismo, wearing grunt-style t-shirts. But if there is such a thing as a masculine trait, which I'd argue, by the way, is ideal for both men and women, it's peacefully accepting the consequences of your actions. That is what being a man is all about. Stoicism, if you will. And Popeye, that's a man. He understands that Bluto is engaged to Olive. He understands that Bluto was stood up at the engagement party. And then he understands that Bluto just saw Olive arrive with a baby and another man in front of everyone in town. And so Popeye, he doesn't bother defending himself against Bluto. We've seen he can kick ass, but he's not going to do it. And it's not because he's a coward. It's not because he thinks he'll lose the fight. Popeye does the math. He reads the room, and he understands he's got to take his beating.
Yeah, and it's no thing for him to do it. It wouldn't be the first, and it's certainly not the last. Let's pump the brakes. Let's move back a little bit. Let's talk about the music. All the music in this film, written by Harry Nilsson, a cinematic hit machine. You maybe don't clock that name at all, but he's got a huge catalog of soundtrack hits. Everybody's Talking is famous for being featured throughout most of Midnight Cowboy. Jump Into the Fire is from like every third Scorsese movie. Gotta Get Up was the theme for Russian Doll. The list goes on. Guys, write in with your favorite Harry Nilsson soundtrack jam. Every song in this film is fantastic. I personally love I'm Mean. If you aren't a little moved by He Needs Me when Olive Oyl sings alone on the docks, you don't have a heart.
I'm glad you gave a shout out to I'm Mean, because that is a song that I always hear you singing, whether it's kayaking down the river or just hanging out at your house. And I was getting really amped to hear Bluto sing it again in the movie, because it's been about a decade since I watched this movie, and the last time I did, I was pretty wasted. So as the song started, I jumped up and I said, King B, is that a black man singing? That can't be Paul L. Smith, the guy who plays Bluto and does Bluto's speaking voice, because he just grunts and grumbles his way through the movie as Popeye's nemesis. Right. Turns out I was partly right. The voice in the song is not Paul L. Smith. It is Big John Wallace, though he is not black. Big John Wallace, for those who don't know, was Harry Chapin's bassist and backup singer. It is a smooth jam. It's not my favorite song in the movie, but it is the best song.
I don't know if it's the best song. It's a little too short, and I think I feel like they wrote it in about 2 minutes. The second verse is a little thin. I mean, you know what I mean.
He's mean.
He's mean. You know what I say. He do. You know what I am.
So you've listened to it a few more times than I have.
Yeah.
But King B, I've been learning piano, and I recently became obsessed with playing City of Stars from La La Land. And that led me to listen to the Ryan Gosling, Emma Stone recording of it in my car. I have become theater people. I've become musical people where I listen to soundtracks in my car. But I got to say, without the movie to go with it, when you take away how painfully good looking those two are, you realize that they're pretty mediocre singers. But it's somehow endearing. And Popeye takes that to the extreme. Shelley Duvall, they allow her to sing solos. Shelley Duvall singing solos as Olive Oyl. And this woman is not a great singer. She's also not conventionally pretty, but she makes a great Olive. She's bony. She's a bit nasal. She's toothy. She's big-eyed, clunky in the limbs. That's what Olive Oyl is. And frankly, it would make zero sense if Olive Oyl could sing like an angel or move like a dancer. She needs to be real to her character. Instead, she's singing and dancing as you would imagine a 4 times engaged resident of Sweethaven would. And I just love Olive. She's incredibly endearing, and I understand why Popeye's smitten with her.
I couldn't agree with you more. In fact, I would even go a step further. When she's singing on the docks, and then at the end of the film when she's cheering when Popeye has won and she's doing her little dance, the way she kind of looks off to him is, I know this is silly, but when I watch Smokey and the Bandit, I literally feel like I can see Burt Reynolds and Sally Field falling in love with each other. There is a chemistry there that is so palpable. Now, I don't know that they necessarily have that chemistry on screen together, Olive Oyl and Popeye, but I see a woman who is longing for love and desires a real man, a virtuous man, a good man to have and to hold and all that other jazz. And I think it's just beautiful. Her portrayal of Olive Oyl, this economically depressed little refugee town woman, it's magical.
The next day, Popeye discovers that Sweet Pea can predict the future by whistling when he hears the correct answer to a question. J. Wellington Wimpy, the constantly hungry local mooch and petty gambler, also notices this and asks Popeye and Olive if he can take Sweet Pea for a walk. Wimpy takes Sweet Pea to the horse races and wins 2 bets. Hearing of this, Olive and her family decide to get in on the action and use Sweet Pea to win, but an outraged Popeye takes Sweet Pea away.
Before I jump into this, I have to ask, am I the most I will gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today person you know?
I've never really thought of it. You're the only person I've ever loaned any sum of money.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Guys, I owe him so much fucking money right now. Don't tell his wife. But I feel like I've always got a scam or some scheme or a plot. And it's always, hey, I'll pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today. I'm sorry, man. That's a despicable trait. I'm not proud of that. I don't want to be a wimpy.
It keeps things interesting.
I guess. Okay, so listen, guys. I read that Dustin Hoffman was the first pick for the role of Popeye. He dropped out due to creative differences with the director. I'm heartless, so I don't care about Robin Williams. I don't like his comedy. I don't give a shit about the drive-by fruiting. That shit's not fucking funny. You're all giving him something he doesn't deserve. No one else could play this role like Robin Williams. The mumbling silliness, the quips, all the little gags and puns, those are right up that guy's alley. I, again, fucking hate Robin Williams, but this was perfect.
You know he died, right?
Good.
Okay.
I had enough.
King B, I'm glad you brought up the muttering, because muttering under the breath is a pretty common comedic device. We see it in lots of movies. But in this movie, it is the main character, and they perfect it. All of my favorite lines in Popeye involve Robin Williams doing that idiosyncratic self-talk which was a hallmark of the Popeye cartoons, too. And a fun fact I discovered was most of the muttering in the cartoons was ad-libbed after the animations. And it's a big reason why people love Popeye. They watched these reels because they wanted to hear what they came up with in studio to put over these animations. There's even a trend today where people will trip on shrooms and then just watch the old Popeye reels for the under the breath chatter. Apparently it's amazing when you're hallucinating. Another fun fact, it's really hard to mutter when you have a pipe in your mouth. So when they made this movie, Robin Williams, who had a pipe in his mouth through like 95% of the movie, he had to re-record some of the lines just like the original voice actors, which make this incredibly meta, right? Basically, they filmed this movie and then treated the movie like it was an animation, doing voiceover acting on top of the live action movie they just made.
I also read that a lot of the songs were sung live on set. And that also contributes to the fact that they had to come back and re-record a lot of dialogue. Whereas in most films, they would have the cast sing in a studio and then they would have them lip sync on the set. Not the case.
Yeah, and when we were watching this movie together, you commented on the sound design. You pointed it out. And once you did, I couldn't unnotice it, right? And as you said, the audio appeared to have been recorded in a separate room and then slapped onto the film. And that makes sense considering if you look at these shots, a lot of them, right, they clearly were filmed from very far away, like on a long lens. Characters were interacting on a rope bridge or fighting in the water or hanging from a boat. They didn't have CGI. They didn't have drones. So they had to set up a camera on a stable platform and then shoot from far away. Putting the audio over the film and having it loosely match in most movies, that would be a bug. But in Popeye, they make it a feature because how else are you going to get olive oils from off screen or hear Popeye's mispronunciations in the middle of a boxing match? It's perfectly cartoonish and it's perfectly imperfect and it's just endearing.
Do you have a favorite Popeye pun or mispronunciation?
I think the House of Ill Repute was probably my favorite.
House of Ill Reputes is so good. I forgot about House of Ill Reputes. I like Disgustapatin.
Yeah, Disgustapatin.
Disgustapatin's really good. Let's take a break. Let's talk about the ethics of Popeye. My most recent Twitter ban came from writing to a woman. I said, "Bitch, shut the fuck up. There is no unethical action when punching up in a class war." I was writing this in response to someone condemning ill wishes for Elon's and Trump's children, or talking about how using their children as human shields wouldn't slow me down a fucking lick. Popeye wouldn't hit a man, Oxblood, in front of his own mother, and took a couple punches as a result. He suffers an incredible amount of insult and indignity, and he's always the very last to retaliate. Gene, I gotta ask, in the face of this shining example of goodness, would you exploit the precognitive abilities of your orphan ward? Popeye says it's despicable and it's wrong. It's disgustapating. But the benefit to your family is obvious. What's your stance here?
It is tough because he's taking a moral stance, but at the same time, the oils have no walls to their home. Like, they've been impoverished through no fault of their own, other than the fact that Olive Oil and Bluto broke it off. But personally, I was raised in a Baha'i household, so gambling was forbidden. And the reasoning for it somewhat aligns with my existing economic beliefs, which is money that is earned passively or through chance devalues honest labor. And to this day, I don't ever gamble to win money. I only gamble when I'm willing to lose, because invariably you're going to lose. It's an entertainment tax and nothing more. However, if my child had a rare talent, I don't see the harm in making money from it, because the kid is clearly having fun. And in this specific instance, we're talking about horse racing, right? So people are free to bet on whatever horse they want. It's not a zero-sum game, right? The kid is just happens to be guessing correctly, and good for him.
Okay. You got an orphan? Not a precognitive orphan. Millionaire goes, "Did you just send me pictures of their feet?"
I sold pictures of myself growing facial hair to a man in exchange for enough money to buy a flat screen television when I lived in Ohio. So 100% I will send you baby feet. Millionaires. If you're out there, host at shatpod.com.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, Beard Lover. That was his handle on Flickr.
Guys, this is a brand new revelation. I've never heard. This is the first time King B is hearing this.
Yeah.
That's fucking disgusting, you fucking slut.
He gave me extra money to shave it.
Get the fuck.
In phases. So from beard to like chin strap beard to goatee to mustache.
Do you still have his email? Because I've been taking biotins and collagens and shit. Bro, that's fucking disgusting.
This might even be pre-Gmail. Let's see. Hold on a second.
Talking fucking Yahoo. Fucking Hotmail accounts. By the way, do not fucking photograph your orphan ward's feet for a fucking millionaire. Ugh.
Can't find him.
I'm with Popeye on this one. Guys, Gene makes these fucking old fashions. Let me tell you.
After Popeye throws the taxman into the sea, earning the town's respect, Wimpy kidnaps Sweepy at Bluto's orders. That evening, when Olive checks in on Popeye privately, she overhears him lamenting that Sweepy deserves to have two parents and that he regrets leaving the way he did. The next morning, Wimpy informs Popeye about the kidnapping after being threatened by Olive. Popeye goes to the Commodore's ship, where he learns that the Commodore is indeed Popeye's father, Poop Deck Pappy, who accepts that Popeye is his son after exposing Popeye's hatred of spinach. Meanwhile, Bluto kidnaps Olive and sets sail with her and Sweepy to find the buried treasure promised by Pappy. Popeye, Pappy, Wimpy, and the Oil family board Pappy's ship to chase Bluto to a desolate island in the middle of the ocean called Scab Island. So we get the scene, King B, where Poop Deck Pappy is chasing Bluto, and for the casual observer, it looked like the dock just fucking broke off and turned into a boat. These ships do not look like conventional ships. They're incredible representations of animations, right? That don't have to necessarily be seaworthy, but they are. And half the town is on board this ship, Poop Deck Pappy ship. We got the Oils, we got Popeye, we got Pappy, we got Wimpy, and for some reason we got Giesel, who, let's just say, has some stereotypically Hasidic qualities. Okay?
What a nice way to put it.
Yeah, thank you. I'll be honest. I had been tracking this guy throughout the movie because he raised some eyebrows. I was trying to figure out whether he was a 2-hour-long Jewish joke. For those who haven't seen the movie, he has a long black coat. He has a fedora. He has a beard. And when we first meet him, he's haggling over vegetable prices with Popeye. Sort of Yiddish accent. And I was so worried that Giesel would end up being a walking stereotype that is just a Jewish pain in Popeye's ass. But no, Giesel, although expressly portrayed as an immigrant, air quotes, in the Popeye comics, he's part of the team. They let him in, just like Wimpy, just like Pappy. And King B, you talked about what a stand-up guy Popeye is, what a shining example he is of a good human being. He embraces these imperfect men, no matter how they've wronged him, no matter how they've irritated him, no matter what they've said to him. He accepts them, and that causes this whole group of people to rally to Popeye's cause.
Maybe it's part of like the larger theme. You know, I mentioned that there's no sense of community at the beginning of this podcast. However, every one of these characters is some sort of refugee. They're stranded at sea, which makes sense. That's why all the buildings are part ship or cobbled together. And all these people have is each other in their shared suffering. So it does make sense that Giesel would just be accepted. I mean, really, he's at dinner with the family in every scene.
Yeah.
Maybe he is an immigrant, but he's just as much family as anybody else.
We talked earlier, King B, about the town of Sweethaven being real in the sense that all the buildings were constructed in Malta. They continue to be used there. But the filmmakers didn't stop there. The ships in this movie, even the ones that are half sunk underwater, they were built as seaworthy vessels and then sunk. That is the attention to detail. And we get to see a few of them in action, particularly Bluto's tugboat named Vile Body, which I love, and Poop Deck Pappy's clunker. It's like a half steamboat, half dock. I don't know what the fuck was going on there. I was shocked at this point in the movie at how delighted I was with this boat chase, Pappy's spoken word performance of kids, talking about how terrible kids are, and the trip to Scab Island.
I'm glad that you liked it, because I gotta confess that it's at this point in the movie that I usually check out. The whole Poop Deck Pappy musical number sort of rant that he's doing is very reminiscent of a lot of Instagram posts I've been seeing lately about these absentee boomer grandparents that never see their grandchildren, that don't really participate at the level that parents remember their grandparents being involved. And I think that that's a real thing. This presents to me what I think is part of the problem with ad-libs. Even though they're a real gem and a treasure in this movie, I feel like they spend a lot of time on this oceanic chase scene on Pappy's boat. Clearly, to me, there's a lack of thorough direction, and everyone's just sort of fuddling around trying to look busy. I could totally imagine the mechanics of a cartoon scene where every character is running a different part of machinery. You're going to have Wimpy shoveling coal into a boiler. You're going to have Castor Oil like running up a sail or something. Everyone's got some cartoony, mechanical Rube Goldberg task to complete. But on screen, when it comes to the real life practicality, it just isn't there. I kind of can imagine the director just shouting through one of those old timey bullhorn cones, look busy, while he wanders off to snort some lines. Pappy does all the heavy lifting in this scene with his monologue, while Williams just kind of mugs for the camera. I gotta tell you, as much as you love this, this is where I usually get up and go get a snack. But I will say, right when I get back from my snack is when we see them running full steam ahead and they T-bone the Vile Body. Now listen, guys, I may be a desert Pokemon, but I know a little bit about watercraft. When we see Pappy's ship broadside the Vile Body, it's instantly destroyed. And I gotta tell you, this isn't too far from realistic. Boats float totally great, but when they take impact from angles beyond the bottom up, the hull, they're actually incredibly flimsy vehicles. Now, Bluto's got a dinghy. He's towing Olive. He's got the baby. But is he really planning on rowing all the way back to Sweethaven? His ship is demolished. He's all the way out on Scab Island. He's got a heavy load with the treasure. What's his plan here?
I didn't think he believed anyone would have the audacity to broadside his ship, because now Pappy's ship is sinking too, right? Like, he didn't think anybody was going to sink their own ship, which kind of begs the question, like, how do any of them get home? My guess is that he took the dinghy to find the treasure, not escape, although it was a great sight gag to have Olive kind of sticking out of the tube being towed behind. Doesn't make any sense, but it's good for laughs.
Shelley Duvall apes it up so good in that exhaust port. Oh, phooey! It's one of the best sight gags, I think, in the movie. I love it so much. You could see it happening in the cartoon. It's brilliant. I absolutely love it.
Well, Popeye catches up to Bluto and fights him, but is overpowered. During the fight, Pappy recovers his treasure and opens the chest to reveal a collection of personal, sentimental items from Popeye's infancy, including a few cans of spinach. Salty Sam, a gigantic octopus, awakens and attacks Olive from underwater after Pappy saves Sweet Pea from a similar fate. While Popeye is being held in a chokehold, Pappy throws a can of spinach to him, recognizing Popeye's dislike for spinach. Bluto force feeds the spinach to Popeye before throwing him into the water. The spinach revitalizes Popeye and boosts his strength, helping him defeat both Bluto and Salty Sam. Popeye celebrates his victory and his newfound appreciation of spinach, while Bluto swims off, having literally turned yellow.
While I feel the chase scene is a definite low point in the movie, the final cartoony battle, it just doesn't rank much higher. They definitely squeeze in some cartoony gags, but they wrap up this fight pretty quickly, and before you know it, the credits are rolling. I attribute this to two things. One, I read that the animatronic octopus suffered some serious malfunctions during filming, The crew had to seriously fake the funk when it came to the octo action. So Shelley Duvall was probably just told, just bite it. I don't know. It's not going to move the way we wanted it to. Let's see here. Additionally, the constant ad-libbing, the reshoots, the rewrites led to constant struggles between Williams and the director Robert Altman. Production costs shot past $20 million, and when the studio heard this, they demanded he shut down production immediately or return to America with whatever footage he had.
I think it's important to note, King B, how big a budget of $20 million was in 1980. We think about budgets now in 2025, but in 1980, we were smack dab in the Star Wars era, right? The Empire Strikes Back, okay? That cost $18 million to make, less than Popeye. And that was the bigger, flashier sequel to the smash hit Star Wars A New Hope, which only cost $11 million to create. So this was a huge budget for a live action version of a 1929 comic.
Incidentally, they greenlit this film because a competing studio greenlit Annie. And they said, oh, what comic strip can we make a movie of to compete with Annie? They came up with fucking Popeye. Now, nobody remembers fucking Annie, but some of us get to remember Popeye.
Who doesn't remember Annie?
I never watched Annie in my fucking
Your
life.
Daddy Warbucks and Annie. Oh, my goodness. That was my childhood.
Well, how come no one at Shat's commissioned Annie?
I don't know. Listeners? So we've got the prolonged boat chase where everyone's acting busy. We've got the fight scene with an octopus that didn't quite work. I think we both can agree that Popeye's climactic ending is the film's weakest link. There is the fan service spinach. There's the ridiculous looking octopus. There's Pappy taking this unexplained face turn and suddenly loving babies. But there is one improvement I can point to in the final half hour of the film. No Bill Irwin. And for those unfamiliar with that name, Bill Irwin is the guy who starred alongside a mustachioed Robin Williams in Bobby McFerrin's Don't Worry, Be Happy music video. And he was also Mr. Noodle on Elmo's World. Maybe it's because I'm not a big fan of clowns. Maybe it's because I haven't been exposed to a ton of Broadway and stagecraft, but I cannot stand this man, Bill Irwin. He gets an inordinate amount of screen time in the first half of the film as Harold Hamgravy, just doing a bunch of physical gags. And I was so glad that in this final scene, they at least made the decision to leave him out.
He's also plays a really interesting mutant in Legion, a fascinating TV Marvel property that was produced by one of the Flight of the Conchords guys.
Okay.
It doesn't always hit, but it was a fascinating show that took risks, and nobody was making anything else like it at the time. If you get a chance, check out Legion. It was on FX.
Is he a mutant that slinks out of a bed or tries to catch water in a fishbowl?
No pratfalls at all.
Oh, wow.
He is a super genius
Does he talk?
who is also his own sibling.
Okay.
So he can either be a super genius, or B, a hyper combative Native American girl. It's really like only one of them can exist at a time, and they share like sort of a memory or whatever. It's a bizarre concept. And she's significantly younger because they spend more time as him than her.
On that note, it's time for the Shat Score. The Shat Score is our way of telling you how many wipes this movie would take to get out of your respective bums. 0 wipes is a perfect movie. It's when your father is tall and looks like Abraham Lincoln. And 5 wipes is an absolute disaster movie. It's the problems of the large. King B, as the resident expert of Popeye, the man who brought the cinematic masterpiece to me and inspired Scott from Friendswood, Texas, to commission this film. You go first. How many wipes do you give Popeye?
While I cannot deny that this has been a personal cult favorite, and all the things that it does right are fantastic. The costuming, the sets, the varied cast of characters. It's perfect. But rather than leave us wanting more, I feel like we just leave too much on the table. That weak third act totally does not service what we should have gotten more of in the first two. The skippable chase scene, the abbreviated battle that falls a bit short on gags, just makes me wish we'd cut that stuff out and have more time with just Popeye and Olive together. Let's give Olive more time to animate those skinny arms and legs, and Popeye more time to dote on her. It's heartbreaking that these performances can never be revisited by the originals, and we're simply not going to have those sorts of talents in Hollywood again. It's a bittersweet thing for me, and as a result, I have to give this movie 2 wipes.
I will admit that I tend to inflate the wipe scores of films that I watch in person with my co-hosts. So when Roger and Big D and I watched The Cable Guy together, I think we scored it very highly, considering we had just gotten drunk at medieval times and then reviewed the movie. King B, I watched this movie with you side by side on the couch with some delicious Jets pizza and wings, and I enjoyed it far more than I expected to. I think that 2 wipes is a disservice, and to convince people how deserving this movie is of 1 wipe, I want to highlight other movies in the 80s that attempted to bring cartoons to live action. There were some bad ones. Masters of the Universe was terrible. Flash Gordon, although Big D loved it, terrible. There were some good ones, serviceable. The one you mentioned already, Annie, and of course Christopher Reeve and Superman, very good. But then there were the great ones. And I think there are 2 that come to mind. Conan the Barbarian, which I think is a brilliant film. And of course this one, Popeye, I think it's deserving of 1 wipe.
I can't argue.
And it's tough to do the calculations without Big D, but I'm going to give it a shot. With 1 wipe from me and 2 wipes from you, King B, that gives us an average wipe score of 1.5, which ties this movie in the 35 spot with Scrooged, Spaceballs, Friday the 13th, Galaxy Quest, UHF, Scarface, Magnolia, Stand By Me, The Naked Gun, 3 O'Clock High, The Rocky Horror Picture Show, Lock, Stock, and 2 Smoking Barrels, Bloodsport, Let It Ride, and one more movie that I think is going to blow your mind. John Carpenter's The Thing.
I just want to say I think it's a wonderful thing that Popeye exists in the same realm as Magnolia. Jesus Christ.
This movie was ranked slightly better than Clue, Leon the Professional, and Risky Business. Slightly worse than Total Recall, The Mummy, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, One Crazy Summer, Christine, A Few Good Men, and Death Becomes Her.
It's worse than Death Becomes Her?
It is worse than
Hard
Death Becomes
disagree.
Her. Ash was on that episode, and she is a live or die by Death Becomes Her fan.
I know which one I'd choose.
All right, Scott, thank you so much for the commission. That brings us to the email portion of the episode, and we have 1 email, and it's about Donnie Darko. Wes wrote in and said, I can't even tell you guys how thrilled I was to hear my email read on the show. Thank you for considering Donnie Darko for a group commission. I could put $75 down if any others want to chip in for the rest. Would that work? And Wes, I'm happy to report that I got an Instagram message from Jekka63 who said that she will go halfsies with you on Donnie Darko because she and her brother have matching Donnie Darko tattoos. So it sounds like it's a go. I'll get in touch with both of you via email. We'll put that together. Big deal. Get that one loaded, and we'll hit it sometime in 2026. So thanks so much for your email. Let's make it happen.
Hey, I'll give you a freebie right now. Jake Gyllenhaal made 1 fucking indie movie and then played nothing but cops and Marines for the rest of his career. What the fuck is that?
Did you ever see Jarhead?
Yeah.
Any good?
No. Give me $300. Cellar door's the most beautiful phrase ever written. Shut up, Drew Barrymore. Although I always have a soft spot in my heart for Jenna Malone.
If you'd like to email us, just write us at host@shatpod.com. You can also go to shatpod.com and use the SpeakPipe feature on any device to leave us a voicemail. Coming up next week, The Imperial forces, under orders from cruel Darth Vader, hold Princess Leia hostage in their efforts to quell the rebellion against the Galactic Empire. Luke Skywalker and Han Solo, captain of the Millennium Falcon, work together with droids R2-D2 and C-3PO to rescue the beautiful princess, help the Rebel Alliance, and restore freedom and justice to the galaxy. That film was commissioned by Jeremiah W., released May 25th, 1977, and directed by George Lucas. Well, thank you, Jeremiah, for the upcoming commission. Thank you, Scott, for your commission. Thank you to all the commissioners who make this podcast possible. That concludes this week's episode of Shat the Movies. Be sure to follow us on social media and share with a friend. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram at Shat the Movies. You can email us, host@shatpod.com. Support the podcast by shopping our Amazon affiliate link, buying our merch, or by commissioning your own movie. Find all that information by visiting our website, shatpod.com. Also, check out our sister podcast, Shat on TV. We review TV series such as Lovecraft Country, Westworld, True Detective, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, and Watchmen. Find all that information on our website, shatpod.com/TV, wherever fine podcasts can be found, including Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, and YouTube. Be sure to subscribe, and if you stop by Apple Podcasts, please leave a 5-star review. It helps the podcast grow. King B, anything you want to plug before we close?
My butthole. I've been taking that Ozempic, and I'm a fucking wreck.
On behalf of my co-hosts, the King B and Big D, I'm Gene Lyons. Join us next week for the following movie.
Luke Skywalker was just a farm boy until he received a mysterious message from a princess.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi.
She's beautiful.
Star Wars, starring Mark Hamill,
I'm Luke Skywalker. I'm here to rescue you.
Aren't you a little short for a stormtrooper?
Harrison Ford,
Boring conversation anyway. Whoa, we're gonna get company! I think we took a wrong turn.
Carrie Fisher,
Good luck.
Alec Guinness,
You can't win, Darth. If you strike me down, I shall become more powerful than you can possibly imagine.
20th Century Fox presents the most extraordinary motion picture of all time, Star Wars.
Here's where the fun begins.
No legendary adventure of the past could be as exciting as this romance of the future.
Here they come.
May the Force be with you in Star Wars.
Oh, my God. Do you have a water over there?
I don't, but I can get you one.
Guys, Gene always makes me the tastiest old-fashioned. And I just ate the cherry, and the sugar hurts my throat a little bit.
I got Smirnoff Ice, I got beer, I got...
He don't have no water in his fridge.
Get you one.
No, I'll take another diet soda.
I don't have that either. I get
Jesus
you one.
Christ.
Let me get you one. Do you want a water or
No,
diet soda?
we're doing so good. A diet soda, I guess. I need a water.
Water. I got you water. Hang tight.
Riff. I'm supposed to riff while you're gone. Guys, I owe Gene so much fucking money, and I just went and bought another motorcycle. I have 8 fucking motorcycles. Why the fuck did I buy another one? He's been incredibly gracious about it, but like in my head, there's like a good Gene and a bad Gene on my shoulder, and the good Gene's like, oh, let's go do fun, responsible things, and the bad Gene just shits on me for all my bad decisions, and all I can hear is the bad Gene on my shoulder going, why'd he buy another fucking motorcycle? He owes me money. But he's been so nice about it, and it just makes the fucking guilt that much worse, and now I can't enjoy my new motorcycle as much as I'd like to. Fuck. Man, that was a good old-fashioned. If you get a chance, you come down to Phoenix. You have Gene make you an old-fashioned. He does them right. I don't think I have anything else to say. I wish Big D was here. I like doing podcasts with Gene, but I always feel like we're cheating the listeners a little bit. We need a little 3-way action. I mean, I know I'm cool and all, but fuck, I don't want to sit with myself that long, let alone make you guys do it. Except for he can suck a fucking dick. Anyway, I hope you guys are liking the podcast so far. I'm enjoying it. Maybe even more than I enjoyed the movie. I can't wait till we get to the scores. I think you'll be happy. Brilliant. Oh, what do you got there?
Fresh out of the oven.
Fresh out of the oven?
Rye bread.
Oh. Oh my God. Sarah, make this?
Yeah. It's a rye sauerkraut. A little brown sugar.
That's a good bread.
Thanks.
I talked the whole time.
Really? What'd you say? I'll have to find out later.
Mostly racial slurs.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Let's take a minute. Talk about delicious rye bread. Rye sauerkraut?
Yeah, rice sauerkraut.
Tell me about that.
So Sarah got a bread maker from her Buy Nothing group.
Nice.
And she decided the first thing she wanted to make was a dark rye sauerkraut. Bread machines, fascinating.
Now, sauerkraut has like cabbage and stringy stuff in it. Mm-hmm. Where's that?
Well, it gets pulverized as the bread is kneaded.
No shit.
Yeah. And then a little brown sugar in there. Yeah, the yeast likes that. And there you go.